Hi, my name is Deb Weiss-Gelmi, and this is a gentle yoga class. The props we will use today is a folding chair, a blanket or two, and a block or two. If you don't have a folding chair, a dining room chair will be fine. And today, if you don't have blocks, a chair will be fine as well. So we'll start in Tadasana. Press through your inner heels, big toe mounds. And for a moment, lift your toes up as you press your thighs back and your middle buttock forward. And then keeping that lift of your legs, lower your toes down. Keep the toes relaxed without gripping the mat. And then lift your side chest up, broaden across your collarbones, and take your shoulders away from the ears. Point your fingers toward the floor slightly. And then allow that head to completely relax. Soften the jaw, soften the eyes. And then take your arms out in front of you for Urdhva Sthasana. And as you take your arms up and over your head, draw your triceps toward each other. That bottom part of your arm. So if your arm was out this way, the tricep would be on the bottom. So take the triceps toward each other as you take your arms up. And imagine someone is gently lifting up your wrists to lengthen your arms up. And take your side ribs up with your arms as you go. And then once you get that full extension, bring your shoulders down, taking the shoulders away from the ears. And soften the face. Urdhva Sthasana. And then bring the arms down. And we'll do Adho Mukha Svanasana, which is downward facing dog. And some of you will go right to the floor for downward facing dog. If you know that pose, then you'll go right to the floor. Or if you've done this a few times, now you go right to the floor. Some of you can do downward dog with this as your hand height. So we'll step the legs back and lengthen back. So if you already want to go to the floor, go ahead and go to the floor with your hands. And we'll do another couple of these together where we do a different height each time. So in the same way that those triceps were coming toward each other in our first pose with the arms up, that's happening here as well. And spread across the upper back and press the thighs away from the hands and soften the face. And then walk forward. And then for the next one, you could do the same one we just did. You could do this middle height, or you could put your hands to the floor. So I'll do the middle height one. So I press my hands onto the chair, pressing through my inner shoulder up toward my hips. And in this case, more back toward my hips. Press my thighs back and lengthen. Soften the face. Triceps toward each other. Outer shoulder toward the floor. Adho Mukha Svanasana. And then for your last dog, you can either do one of those two or you can go to the floor. So I take my hands to the floor. I press through the pointer finger mound and the thumb mound and curl the toes under and take my hips up and back, pressing through that pointer finger mound up through the inner shoulder and up through the hips and toward the ceiling. Lengthening. And then again, those triceps toward each other, the outer shoulder toward the floor, spreading the upper back. And then press through the inner heel slightly and press the thighs away from the hands. Lift that inner shoulder, press the thighs back, and let the head just hang. And then come on down. Our next pose is Uttanasana. It's an intense forward bend. So this is one that you can use the chair for. Depending upon your flexibility at this time. So we have our feet hip distance apart. If you want the high height for your head, you can do that, or we can do the chair seat or the block, and I'll show you each of them. And whichever one you're in, you can stay there. So the first one, it is pretty high, so you can just cross your forearms and rest your head. And then you want your heels right underneath your hips. So as your hamstrings start to open up in the back, then you might be able to go a little bit lower. So you might have the chair with a block on it or a blanket, so it's not quite as low, but you can cross your forearms again for this height. And you want to try to have the hips right over the heels. So this might be where you stay. If so, go ahead and stay there. Another support a little bit lower could be blocks, which could be a combination of a block under each other like this. As your hamstrings and body start to lengthen and open up, then you might get a little bit lower like this. You might end up taking the top or the bottom block out. The main thing is you don't want to shorten the neck. So if you're quite flexible and you're going down to each level, and then each level eventually is too short, then you can go as low as you need to. But you want to try to have the hips up over the heels. If you don't have any support, you can grab your opposite elbow. Or you can have your support. And then to come on out, look forward. You can use the chair seat to come up. You can put your hands on your back, your hips to bring you up. And then back to Tadasana. And you were in a slight inversion, so if you need the support of the wall when you stand up, that's fine too. But just come out slowly. And then the next one's Prasarita Padottanasana. Now this is a forward bend again, but it is a wide leg forward bend. So this is where you could use the chair or the blocks if you have them as well. So I'll show you first with the chair. So you'll start in Tadasana. Let's do it together. Jump or step your feet wide. Try to get your feet as wide as your wrists, so your ankles are right under the wrists. Spread the arms. And then put your hands on your hips for a moment. Point your elbows back. Lift your side chest up. And as you go forward, take your inner thighs to the wall behind you. So for those of you using the chair, you could put your hands onto the chair. For some of you, you might take your hands right to the floor. For some of you, you might rest your head. Just do what is best for you in this moment. You could also, of course, use the top of the chair so it's much higher, or a little bit higher, really. And then for some of you, you'll stay right here. For some of you, if you have the flexibility or the experience, you might take your head toward the floor. And if you do that, you can put your head on a block at different levels, or you can take your head right to the floor. So when you take this version, then you round the back, which means you're spreading from the spine out. And draw that navel toward your back, spreading that space behind your navel. Prasarita Padottanasana. And then lift those shoulders up off the floor. And if you're still resting with your head on the chair, or with your arms on the chair, just your hands on the chair, all of this is good. If you are with your head down, you'll look forward to start to come out. And then if you're on the chair, you can use the chair to come up, or you can put your hands on your hips and lift up. And then jump or step your feet back together. So now we'll take that wide leg that we just did and we'll take it to the floor. So we can move the chair out of the way and the blocks, and this is when we would bring in a blanket possibly. It depends on what you need. But most likely for some of the poses you will want a blanket. So if you need to pause the video at any time to go get stuff, you can do that. So for this first pose, Upavishta Konasana, this is the one where we take our legs wide. Wide angle pose. And then you sit yourself to the front of the blankets. And then you want to have it so your knees are facing the ceiling and your toes are facing the ceiling. And then you can put your hands behind you on the blanket. Or if you're on the floor, your hands can be on the floor. Cupped ideally like you've got a tennis ball in there. Point the elbows back. And when you do that, it gives you a little bit of leverage to lift that chest even a little bit more. And then shoulders away from the ears. Spread the collarbones, spread the chest wide. And then we'll do Parshva Konasana, where we'll turn our torso toward the right. So the left hand goes in front, the right hand behind, and turning the torso. Feeling your ribs in the back, your shoulder blades in the back, turning the torso. So sometimes when we go to do twists, our shoulders lift up. So you want to make sure that the shoulders are staying down and even slightly behind while the ribs come around. And this side ribs goes back. So twisting, and then unwind, and to the other side. So Parshva Konasana, turning the navel and the chest now toward the left leg. The back right ribs coming around, the left ribs going back, twisting. Think of your navel and middle sternum going toward that leg. Shoulders away from the ears, side ribs lifting up and coming around. And then slowly unwind. So for this next pose, Baddha Konasana, bound angle, you'll grab what we call the strings of the knees, the space behind that knee that you want to try to let go of the tension in there, or the hardness of that string of the knee as you bring your leg in. And then this is one where you might want 2 blankets even. And then so I'm softening that string of the knee. So I'm grabbing behind that knee, letting the strings of the knee soften as I bring my legs in. One of our habits that we have in our culture is tightening the inner thigh and that inner knee. And so to allow for healing of the knee or to prevent injury, we want to learn to soften the inner thigh and that inner knee. So this is a lovely pose for practicing that. So you can grab onto your shins, lift your chest up, bring that back armpit to front armpit up. Another way to think of it is just lifting the front armpit higher than the back. Broaden across the collarbones. Feel your shoulder blades in the back lifting into the body to spread the chest. Even your lower ribs in the back sort of lifting up and in slightly, more so up, to broaden the chest, just soften the face. Baddha Konasana. See if you can soften the thighs while you're in the pose. Soften the inner knees. Think of those last few inches there, right at the knee, of letting go. Soften the face and lift the sternum. Lift that front body up. And then from here we'll do another twist. So let's twist to the right first. This time you can hold on to that foot and then a hand behind and twist toward the right. Navel and chest turning toward the right. lifting the sternum up. Soften the face. Your neck is just a natural extension of your torso. So however far your torso is turning, have your neck be about that much of a twist instead of a strain of the neck. And then we'll slowly unwind. And we'll keep going to the other side, facing your navel and chest toward the left side. Now notice as you're twisting, if you're tensing up your inner thighs and knees. Try to relax those. Turning that navel toward the left. Shoulders away from the ears. Sternum toward the ceiling. On the back, I'm sort of grabbing onto the blanket behind me to twist a little more deeply. Softening the inner thighs to the knees. Soften the face. And then we'll slowly unwind. And use the muscles of your arms to lift your legs up so we can keep that softening of the inner thigh. So lift those thighs, lift the knees so the thighs can stay soft, and then extend your legs out in front of you. They can be hip distance apart. Extend through the inner heel and the big toe mound. And then try to bring the little toe side of the feet back to your hip. So as I'm straightening my legs, I'm not pressing my knees down, but I'm pressing my heels down and the roots of my thighs down. And in doing so, the knees can naturally extend after such a deep knee bend with the last pose. So soften your face, soften your inner thighs, flow through your inner knee, your inner heel away. And bring that little toe side back. The opposite that we often see is with the little toe side going this way and the foot just going this way. So this would be the opposite if you can see it, the toes flowing back this way. So what we want to do is flow this way, extending through those inner feet and bringing the little toe side back to the hips. And broadening across those toe mounds. And lift the sternum. This pose is called Dandasana, staff pose. Our next pose is Marichyasana 1. This is another twist, and you might need another blanket again instead of just sitting on one. It depends on what you need. So take what you need. And we'll first bend the left leg in. So again, I'm grabbing the strings of those knees, bringing that foot in, bringing the heel right up to the blanket or to the buttocks. Leave a little bit of space here. We don't want to cross the knee over the midline. So we're lifting up, using that knee as leverage to lift the torso up. And same as when we were lifting earlier in Baddha Konasana, we want to try to lift using the shoulder blades and the ribs in the back to lift and broaden the chest in the front. So the holding onto this knee gives us nice leverage to do that. And then take the shoulders away from the ears, extend still through that inner heel, big toe mound, and the little toe side coming back. Soften the face, lengthen the torso up. Lengthen, 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 trying to keep a softness in that inner thigh still. So lifting up. And then we'll lift the left arm up and bring it on the inside of the knee. And then we open the chest away to the right side. So we're using now the leverage of that leg to twist. So we want to lift the sternum still. Bring those ribs through in the back armpit to front armpit, twisting away from that bent leg. And with the big twist, notice what this leg is doing. So extend through this leg, the inner foot, and bring the little toe side back. So we would say that this leg is staying in Dandasana, that first staff pose. So shoulders away from the ears, and then you can turn yourself back forward. Use your hands to guide that knee to straighten the leg back out. So back in Dandasana, re-soften the face, extend and flow through the inner thighs, the inner knees to the inner heels and big toes away. If you can comfortably sit with your feet together, you can do that for Dandasana. And then now we'll do the other side. So I hold on to the strings of my knees of the right leg, pull that foot in, bring it right into your buttock bone there. Be sure there's a little bit of space here. Extend through the inner knee, the inner heel, big toe mound of that straight leg, and the little toe side back. And then we use this knee again to lift the chest up. Lift the chest as before. So we thinking of those ribs in the back and the shoulder blades in the back, lifting and supporting the front body as the front body lifts and spreads. Spreading across the collarbone, drawing back the space behind your navel. And then, of course, that leg still in Dandasana. So lifting the sternum, soften the face. And then now extend the right arm up, and the right elbow will come on the inside of that right leg for leverage to then turn away. Turn away from the right knee. Drawing that space back behind the navel for a twist. Lifting the sternum, shoulders away from the ears. Feeling those shoulder blades in the back, helping with the turn. Those back right shoulder blades turning. Soften the face. Making sure we still have this leg in our Dandasana leg with the toes facing toward the ceiling. Soften the face. Turn. Again, no tension in the neck. Just a natural extension of the torso turning. And then we'll slowly unwind. Guide this leg back out. Back to Dandasana. Your feet can either be a hip distance apart or you can bring them together. And just extend away. Lifting the torso up in Dandasana. Again, having those fingers cupped like we did for the other pose. And lifting. Soften the face, soften the inner thighs. Our next pose is Marichyasana 3. So the last one that we did was Marichyasana 1. And with that one, we turned our torso away from the bent knee. Now for Marichyasana 3, we're going to turn our torso toward that bent knee. Okay, so Marichyasana 3. So we'll bring the right leg in, pull it right on into that buttock, remembering not to cross that midline, extend through the inner heel, big toe mound. Use the leverage of that leg to lift the torso up. And this time we'll lift the left arm up, and lifting and lengthening and lifting and lengthening, and then bring that to the outside of that right knee. And then use that for leverage to pull that torso through. Like your back left ribs are coming on through past that shoulder and past the knee. Marichyasana 3. If you can find that space behind the navel, then draw that space back and twist. And be sure that leg is still in Dandasana, toes pointing up. Twisting. You can use that hand behind you for more of a twist. And then we'll slowly unwind. Guide that leg back out. Back to Dandasana. And then the left leg in. Pull that heel right in to your body, having a little space between the legs. Try not to let that knee cross over. And then reaching up. Now the right arm. Reaching up, 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 lengthening that torso up. Using the arm to do that. And then twisting and hooking that right arm on the outside of that leg. And then twisting away. I'm actually against the wall, using the wall. That's quite convenient. You can also have your hand on the blanket behind you or the floor behind you and twisting. Using that leverage of the leg. Softening that inner thigh of that bent leg too, though. And then extending that straight leg out for Dandasana and turning away from that straight leg. Keep the face soft, shoulders away from the ears. And then we'll turn back forward. Use your hand to guide that knee back out straight. Back to Dandasana. So our next pose is a chair version of what we call Bharadvajasana, which we'll do in another video, but today we'll do the chair version. So we'll put the chair with the back of the chair facing your screen, your video, and then we'll sit with our legs off to the side to start. Slide yourself back to the back of the chair, heels under knees, and lift up. So just as we were lengthening in that last pose, torso lifting up before you twist. And then on your exhalation, twist toward the back of the chair. So we're going away from that outer hip, or the hip that we're going away from, we're taking down. And twist. This one is really nice because we get the chair for leverage. So it can help us lift up and lengthen, and then help us turn. So those back shoulder blades and back ribs are doing that twisting in the back and allowing the front to spread, and then shoulders away from the ears. This is a nice one to do at work or if you've been sitting for a bit anywhere. You can just do this anywhere you are, twisting. It can help relieve the back during the day, which is really lovely. And then we'll slowly unwind and do the other side. Having your heels under your knees, scoot yourself to the back of the chair, lift the sternum up, lengthen through the crown of the head, and on your exhalation, turn. So that hip that we're turning away from goes toward the floor as we turn away. Shoulders away from the ears, bringing those back ribs through. Lifting that front armpit up. Shoulders away from the ears. And oftentimes when we do this pose, our shoulders will come forward too. So we want to make sure that the shoulders are staying behind, but the chest and ribs are doing their work. And then we'll slowly unwind back to our neutral spine. So the next pose is Chatushpadasana. Some of you will want a block, but if you don't have a block, that's fine. I will show you both versions. So for this one, if you are using a block, you'll have it next to you. And then lie down on your back. Actually, first watch. I'll quickly show you, and then you can do it next. Obviously, if you've seen the video a few times, then you can just go into it if you know how to do it. But so first, I walk my feet toward my buttocks, and then I lift my buttocks up and I roll a shoulder under and roll a shoulder under. So some of you might stay like this, and I'll talk you through some of the points once we're in it together. But some of you might want to put the block under there. You can kind of go up to your toes, lift yourself really high, and put the block under there. For some of you, the block might be at the medium height, and for some it might be at the low height. So you choose which height is best for you. Okay, so we'll go in together and I'll talk you through the parts. So you lie down, walk your feet in, lift your buttocks up, roll your shoulder under, flowing the shoulder toward the fingers, roll your shoulder under, and really lift that buttocks up. And the outer thighs roll up toward the ceiling as well. So we're getting toward the top of the shoulders here. So some of you might stay here, and as you get tired, you can come out and go back in. Some of you might want to put the block under your tailbone. And then with the block under your tailbone, you'll come down a little bit and it'll be a little more restful. And then even if you have that there, you can lift up off it for a little more muscularity, buttocks work, outer thighs flowing up, and then you can sort of rest back on the block if you want to do that. Otherwise, if you don't have a block, you can just go in and out of it from the floor, noticing the rolling under the shoulders when you go up, and then unrolling the shoulders when you come down. So begin to soften your face and soften your abdomen. Even when you're muscularly lifting, we're softening the abdomen. The abdomen is soft in this. It's as though the back body is the framework and the front body gets to soften. My abdomen gets to soften, my face gets to soften, but my buttocks is working tremendously to keep me up. Or If you're resting, your abdomen will relax and your face will relax, but also your back body a little bit more. So we'll stay in this one for a little while. This is our last restorative pose before we go into Shavasana. So whichever way you're doing it, either lifting up or resting, be sure to soften your face, soften your abdomen, flow those shoulders towards your hands, towards your feet. Soften the inner thighs. Allow the outer thighs to lift up toward the ceiling with your middle buttocks going toward the ceiling. Softening the face. And then to come out of this, if you have the block, you'll lift up off the block, take the block out, and come down. And if you're in it, you'll just start to come down, moving from your upper back, unroll the shoulders, flowing down from your upper back to your lower back, coming down last. And then our last pose is Shavasana. So for this one, you'll lie flat on your back. Have your knees bent for a moment as you lift up and take your top buttock away from your low back. So you're lengthening that low back. And then your top buttock away from each other slightly. And then take one leg out at a time where the legs are more together. And then you just allow them to splay to the side. And then the shoulders flow toward the hands, shoulders away from the ears. And then soften the face. And in this pose, you just get to let go. From the top of your head all the way down to your feet, just completely letting go. And after doing muscular work, it sometimes takes a little while to even begin to let go. And then as you begin to let go, it happens progressively. Sometimes thinking of it as a progression down the body is helpful. So starting with the face, completely letting go of muscles on the face. The muscles between your eyes flowing down toward your temples and toward the floor. Soften the muscles around your eyes. Let go of any tension in your jaw. Unhinge your lower jaw from your upper jaw. Finding a little bit of space between the upper teeth and lower teeth, but keeping the lips together gently. Soften the neck and throat. Soften the shoulders, flowing toward the half-open hands. Soften your chest and upper back, letting those muscles go. Soften the abdomen and low back. And flow from your hips all the way down to your feet, just completely letting go of the muscles. Flowing through your inner thigh, inner knees, inner ankles, and just splay to the side. Soften the feet. And then just go through your body, finding any places that you need to still let go of. Sometimes we think we're done letting go and there's still a little bit more. For a deeper and a deeper and deeper letting go. begin to come out of Shavasana. Bend your arms, put your hands onto your torso, anywhere where it's comfortable, on your abdomen, your ribs, your chest, and just allow the elbows to remain on the floor for a moment. Bend your left leg, put your foot on the floor. Draw your right arm up and over your head. And then as you push off your left leg, you'll roll to your right side. And your head will be supported on your arm. And then bring your knees together for comfort. We're coming out of Shavasana, but hoping to somewhat remain in a state of Shavasana as we come out. Relaxed, clear-headed. And then use both arms to push yourself up into a seated position. Or however you are most comfortable. And then there's a tradition in yoga where we say namaste, which can be translated several different ways, but which means the light in me honors the light in you, or the best in me says hello to the best in you. So we join our hands together and say namaste. Thank you so much for joining us today.